Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. The building is locked as it's been for 2 years. You can call the number listed on the screen. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality, our existence. We do the story behind the story. My friend John Haller does an excellent job of recapping the news bi-weekly. And so we do stories that are the story behind the story, what's going on, what's driving this towards the end times. We try not to be disparate. We're Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. I'm talking about water wars today. Now, you've been told for 40, 50 years that it's going to be oil that drives Gog Magog, the final war, and really drives everything. It's all going to be oil. And when Israel found oil, that means that Russia is going to come down and try to take away their oil. That's not the case. It's going to be water, people. And I'm going to try to prove that to you with Revelation 8 and chapter 16, more so 16. By the time you get to that point, which is the bowls, it's going to be water and it's going to be horrific. So yes, oil does factor in, but really, no one has ever died as a result of lacking oil. Okay, now I'm talking about oil that you could put in your car engine, not the or gasoline, diesel things like that. Basically, over the course of history, we really didn't even understand gasoline and oil type products until the 20th century. So in most cases, oil was olive oil. So I see how they think that's what it means, but it's not really the case. So the point is water, water, water. Third seal, possibly. These economic and food horror stories are occurring, people. So we've got problems like this is an article on the left-hand side. We must wake up to the world's water crisis. Yes, I agree with that. There are water issues worldwide right now, and this is a 1024 of 22, so it's pretty recent stuff here. Okay, so and this could be the third seal. It's a little bit of the fourth seal. I believe we are in the third seal. We've been in for a decade. And he broke the third seal, and I heard the third living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand, which means we will be judged. The scales are always a sign in the Bible of being under judgment. And that means that our food costs will go through the roof. You will pay basically a day's wages just to get some bread. And watch wheat. That was my last video. Watch wheat. Watch the price of wheat. It is going very, very high. I don't monitor barley very well. I'll try to find out at some point in time. So basically, on the right-hand side, when the rivers dry up, you can't ship your things around. So if you want to save tons of money, don't ship on the rails. Don't ship on trucks. Ship on water. We've been shipping on water for 4,000 to 6,000 years. It is an efficient way to ship things, very cheap. But now with the rivers drying up, you can't do that. So the horror stories are lining up, and it's based on water, not on oil. Okay, the United States of Megadrought. This is from 1024 of 22 also. And 80% of the U.S. is in megadrought in 2022, and especially the areas that produce food. That's the breadbasket where I live, from Minnesota down following the Mississippi, but all the other rivers too. I mean, the Missouri dumps into the Mississippi. So this is where we are. So once again, I'm arguing that we are in the third seal. We're seeing droughts, but we're seeing parts of the fourth seal also. So 80% is in drought. It's going to intensify and spread the dry conditions, killing crops, increasing fire risks. Fire is part of this too. Spell trouble for electricity in states such as California, Arizona, Nevada. It's going to be dry. And then you can't move your cargo by barges for the Mississippi. So that will also affect crude oil, corn, soybeans, other essentials. So this will be an interesting time as we go into drought. More issues. Drinking water for homes and schools in Arizona is drying up because foreign-owned mega farms are sucking it up for their crops. So basically, Saudi Arabia, or in this case, this is the Abu Dhabi company, they came in, bought the land, drilled deeper wells, and were able to get all the water out. And so your residential homes can't get it. So is this fair that then the crops go to Abu Dhabi and they don't help anybody in the United States? Yeah, it's brilliant, but it's devious. Okay, so we probably need to do something about that. This is from Daily Mail. And yeah, this is water is being literally and rapidly pumped out of the ground by a neighboring well belonging to the Arab Emirates based company, and so based in Abu Dhabi too. So it's just amazing what's happening right now, and that is Arizona. Okay, so we do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know. I try to weave in some prophecy. There won't be a lot of prophecy, non-biblical prophecy, say today, but it'll be all Bible and the news of what's going on, and we'll try to give it to you in terms of water. Water's the key issue with this one, because really, when you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, water's in there. Oil and driving your car is not in there. I mean, you can survive without your coffee from the coffee store. Okay, what's coming up? The solar eclipse is done. We just had that on October 25th of 2022, and it was just a partial solar, but it was interesting to occur during that time frame. The total lunar eclipse will occur on November 8th of 2022, which is election day in America. And keep in mind that solar eclipses affect Gentile nations because the Gentiles reckon their calendars by the solar months and by the true summer and fall and things like that. And we're coming up, we just started fall here a little while ago, and we'll start winter shortly on December 21st. The Gentiles reckon by that. The Jews reckon by the lunar eclipse, and Bibi should be coming into office around November 8th of 2022. So the Jews and people like me reckon by the lunar calendar. And so when Israel does the will of God, they will have nothing to fear from all of this, citing prophet Jeremiah. So do not learn the way of the nations, and do not be dismayed by the portents in the sky. Let the nations be dismayed by them, Jeremiah 10:2. And the portents will happen in the sky over the next few years. So just watch for that and be aware of it. Don't be dismayed. Okay, so once again, water scarcity, and this is water stress by 2040, and it's just going to get worse, guys. Much worse than they're showing you here, okay? Now, down below, you can't even read it. It's just too small. But this is from Noah Hutchings from Southwest Radio. Nice people. They're pre-trib. So they're going to stick with their story that the word of prophecy from Ezekiel 38:39 really, the Gog-Magog war is going to come down to the great spoil, which is oil. So when you see oil in Israel, that means Russia's coming down. No, that's not what it means. That means water. Water is the most important issue, and Israel is a leader in water. And so keep that in mind. So let's look to the right-hand side now, and you'll see that water isn't a big factor. You could say maybe in the third seal, causing the food prices to go up, or the fourth seal, where you've got some water issues or some other issues that cause death, okay? But really, you're going to start to see it in the first trumpet, the second trumpet, the third trumpet, the fourth trumpet. Then moving forward, you'll see it on the second bowl, the third bowl, the fourth bowl, and ultimately, we're going to show you how drought is a factor in the sixth bowl. I didn't mark it that way, but I want you to be aware. Water, 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 water. Nothing about Russia coming down for oil in Israel. Nothing at all, guys. That is their opinions. They're nice people, but they're wrong. Okay? And so, once again, the third seal, and it's the scales and black, and it is the north, and we're starting to see those things. But some of these things could be the fourth horseman too, which is 4 different plagues. The Ramphea, which is mass migrations causing all sorts of mayhem. Limo, which would be famine, crop failures, other issues like that, or Thanatos, which is just death. It could be war too. Russia's trying hard to start that. And then Therion, animal attacks. And we're going to show you that. That's an interesting one. When water is low, the animals will attack humans in the cities. Just keep that in mind. But I think it's pandemics. Okay, I just think it is. But you never know. In the Bible, it's always been animal attacks, and God warns about that. But the way therion is read in the Greek, it can be lower forms of animal life, which would be biological warfare. Okay, so now let's move into the seal. After that is the 5th seal, which is martyrdom. Then the 6th seal, the stars fell from heaven to the earth, just like a fig tree drops its figs when shaken by a strong wind. And then there's a quake. Okay, now these probably are going to be flaming, icy figs dropping from our skies. That would cause fires, okay, and explosions, and it'll be frightening. If you want to look at something interesting, look at some of the pictures from 1833 when we had a humongous asteroid fall. It's very interesting. So, and that's what kind of kicked off the Mormons and the Seventh Day Adventists. They didn't all kick off during that time frame. The Mormons definitely, and they have a defined eschatology. But also the Seventh Day Adventists and also the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, technically, those two groups kind of kicked off later in about 1859, and then later than that. But they all were living in upstate New York when this hit, when the asteroids hit. So keep that in mind. Then the seventh seal is basically a time for prayers, and there's silence in heaven for half an hour. Then we move immediately into the first trumpet. And what's going to happen? Hail and fire mingled with blood and was thrown down upon the earth. A third of the earth was burned up. That affects water. And a third of the trees were burned up. That affects water too. Check out Haiti. And all the green grass was burned up. Okay, now normally it's a third, a third, a third. But in this case, all the green grass was burned up. That affects water. Okay, the second angel sounded the shofar, and what looked like an enormous blazing mountain was hurled into the sea. A third of the sea turned to blood. Okay, that's water-based. A third of the living creatures in the sea died. It's kind of water-based, but it's food. And a third of the ships were destroyed. Okay, so we've covered two of those. That seems to be water, doesn't it? Okay, then the third trumpet. The third angel sounded the shofar, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky, and a third of the rivers and onto the springs of water. That's water. That's potable water. The name of the star was bitterness, wormwood. And the third of the water became bitter, wormwood. And many people died from the water that had been turned into bitterness. Now, keep in mind, just keep this in mind, that sweet wormwood tea has been used for many years to cure things and can cure the bitter waters. Moses threw a stick into the water and it cured the bitterness. So just keep that in mind. Sweet wormwood is an interesting stick to throw into the water to cure the bitterness, the wormwood waters. So that is a water issue. Okay, I mean, no doubt about it. It's not oil for your car, it's water that's serious there. Then the fourth trumpet. The fourth angel sounded the shofar, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened, and the day had a third less light, and the night likewise. So basically, it's a third things darkened. It's not water-based, but yet you'll already be noticing water issues by that point in time. Now, let's move on to the bowls. That's Revelation chapter 16. And Revelation, really when you're talking about the bowls, it's mostly chapter 8 of Revelation. Okay? So we'll jump into this, and it's really, I believe, about potable water. Do not use for drinking or washing. In this case, water is going to be the big battle going forward. And I'll show you more news later on too. Okay, now before we get into the verses of chapter 16, I just want you to know there's an interesting conundrum going on here, where you've got Satan's throne that is listed early in Revelation. Then you've got the throne of the beast listed in Revelation 16, 10 and 11, okay, and plunged into darkness. And then you've also got God's throne in heaven, Revelation 4, and then God's throne again from Isaiah 6:1. So the main thing is thronos, throne, in the Greek, appears 62 times in the New Testament, 47 of which are in the book of Revelation. Twice it refers to Satan's throne, okay? Then once it's the throne of the beast. And on 4 occasions it refers to God's throne. So this is tempting me to do another article at some point in time on which throne is which and when does it matter to you, because the word thronos is the same word in all cases. But it could be in heaven. It could be that for the 24 elders. So just keep that in mind as we start reading in chapter 16, that the word throne is going to pop up, and I just want you to see that. So once again, oil or water wars. I think it's H2O. So the first Malach, the first angel, the Rishon, departed and poured out his kiara, the bowl, onto the Haaretz, the earth, and bad and evil, raw, sore came on the Bnei Adam. So that's the sons of Adam, the men and women, having the mark of the beast, the Chaya, okay, and the ones worshiping the Tzatzav, the idol, the icon in the Greek, and that's also found in Exodus 9 through 11. It sounds a lot like it, guys, okay? And the Hasheni, the second Malach, the second angel, poured out his Kiara, the bowl, onto the sea, and it became like the dam, and that's blood, of the Niftar, of the deceased person, and every living thing in the water, it doesn't say water, but in the sea, died. And that's Shemot 7. So that's basically Exodus again. It sounds a lot like Moses' time. Okay, but that's Revelation 16, 2, and 3. So then we move forward, and this gets long, but this is Revelation 16. I should have broken this out better, but it is H2O. So then the fifth angel poured out his Kiara bowl on the throne. Remember I mentioned throne is kind of weird. This is the throne of the beast, not the throne of Satan, which is from Revelation 2:13. This is the throne of the beast. I don't know where that's going to be, so I'm going to work on that later on. Okay, and the Malkut, the kingdom of the Kaya of the beast, the anti-Messiah. Okay, became darkened and agony. They were gnawing their tongues, and that sounds a lot like Exodus 10. So that's Moses' time there. And they spoke Kalu, so they spoke blasphemies against God and against Elohe Shashayim, the God of heaven, okay, because of their agony, because of their sores, and they did not make teshuvah, which is turning and repenting for their ma'asim, their deeds, and the hashli, the sixth Malach poured out his Kiara, the bowl, on the Nahar Hagadol, so the great river, the Euphrates, and on the Mayim, water of it dried up, and the Derek, the way of the Melachim, the kings from the rising from the sun from the east, might be prepared. And that's Isaiah 11. It's very interesting how Isaiah talks about these things too. And so coming out of the pay, out of the mouth of the dragon, the Nakash, and out of the pay of the Chaya, the beast, the anti-Messiah, and out of the pay of the Navi Sheker, that is the false prophet, those guys. So the dragon and the anti-Messiah and the false prophet all had these unclean spirits of frogs popping out. That sounds like Moses again. And the Ruchot, the spirits of the Shadim, the demons, performing otot, miraculous signs, which go forth to the Malachim, the kings of the earth, of all the earth, to gather them to the Sadeh Karav, the battlefield of the Yom Hagadol, the great day of Hashem Adonai Tezvaot. I love the way he says it. It's a little bit complex because I'm doing English and Hebrew at the same time, but I want you to be aware that this reads just like Moses. It just does. And so the frogs, the unclean, the spirits, the other things like that, it sounds like Moses. And that's what's coming. And it's water-based. And Moses was a lot of water-based too. Okay? So keep in mind, this is water, water, water all the way through. So the sixth bowl of wrath, again the Euphrates, and the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and the water dried up to prepare the way for the kings of the sun of the east, where the sun rises. And in a water crisis is a water crisis brewing between Turkey and Iran. Yes, because Turkey's put up dams, and the dams are blocking the water. So, Turkish-Iranian ties. Well, Iran hates everybody. So then also Iraq is tussling with neighbors over water. So they're drying out. So these great rivers. So I want you to read one little thing. It's down in the lowest possible section on this slide, but I want you to read this. The territory of modern-day Iraq was once known as Mesopotamia. Literally the land between two rivers, so the Tigris and Euphrates. But the Euphrates is there in Revelation 16:12. I just want you to see it, and it's a water issue. Water, water, water. It's the big issue of the end times. It's not going to be gasoline for your engine because you're just going to want to survive the day. Okay, so as I mentioned, it sounds like Moses, but these things came from God, and they will come again from the throne of God. Okay, so this is from Moses' day, from Exodus 4. If they won't believe you or heed you, the evidence of the first sign, they will be convinced by the second. But if they are not persuaded even by these signs and still won't listen to what you say, take some water from the river and pour it on the ground. The water you take from the river will turn into blood on the dry land. It sounds like Moses. And keep in mind, it does come from God. Okay, water. Now, there are other people out there saying it isn't from God. This is a guy, I'm blanking on this name now, Dane Wigington. Okay, so there it is. There's my green note. So Dane is a nice enough fellow from California, and he's showing you the before and the after of all the water draining out, and he's saying it's geoengineering. Yes, Lyndon Baines Johnson gave a speech back in 1963, I want to say, maybe 64, where he talked about water weapons, and not water, but weather weapons, and geoengineering. And he said, we can do it. And China's been doing it for years too. I'm telling you, the end times are by God. The plagues are coming from God because of wickedness, not from, well, okay, maybe 2 to 5% is coming from geoengineering. Now he's going to cite, look at this. This is Dane again, and he runs geoengineeringwatch.org, okay, and he's, oh goodness, I'm blanking on, is this Oroville? It doesn't matter which reserve it is, but he's walking into it, and he's saying this is from geoengineering. I'm saying it's from God, people. Okay, so once again, this is, Lake Shasta, California. So he's claiming that this is caused by geoengineering. Well, interesting. So that's what's left of it right now with all the boats there. I want to say this is from God. I'm sorry. Interesting fellow. I'm glad that he's willing to submit some information, but I don't think that's it. Now, this is a different source, we'll call it prophetic source. Rebecca Sterling, she's now dead. And she died, I think, just about a year ago. And she said, during the end times, you're going to see weird things occur, one of which will be worldwide droughts. Not enough clean water. You're also going to see a virus in the food or in the water. She's claiming these saviors, that work with the Antichrist, are going to come and offer unlimited water, and they're going to offer an exchange of seed. That includes human seed, too. So it sounds like Genesis 6, doesn't it? So just keep that in mind. There are other people saying it's going to be the water issue. Water. And that's the case. Now we'll get back to the news. So the coming water wars. This is by Joseph Mercola. Some people don't like him. I love the guy. I think he's great. So the U.S. military has a history of using weather modification practices in warfare. It doesn't change the weather that much, but they did use it during the Vietnam War. China has been bragging lately that they're using seed clouds to induce rainfall over the Yangtze River. Okay, so people are aware that water, hydropolitical issues would be the driver of future wars. One of the most important preparations you can make is to secure a supply of potable water, such as a large cistern to collect rainwater. I wish I could do that, but I'm not in a position where I can. So Mercola again, the history of climatic warfare. I'm saying Gog Magog is not over oil, it's over water. While geoengineering, including spraying sulfate aerosols into the Earth's stratosphere in order to modify climate, is often still talked about as though it's straight from a science fiction movie. No, they're able to do certain things. They've been able to work on this since 1946, and so it's a crisis by design. So the wars of the future, the New York Post wrote this many years ago, will be fought over water, not oil. Indeed, other than air, there's no resource as precious as water, and it becomes scarce. Those who control it will retain ultimate power. Thus, Corbett believes this is part of the master plan. So yeah, it's going to be the water issues that drive it in the future. And it's biblical, people. You've seen that. The global water crisis should crush the energy industry. Yes, it could crush it. Yeah, could or should. So this is from oilprice.com. Water is growing more scarce due to climate change. Whether you say it's climate change caused by man or climate change caused by, come on, Jupiter's got issues right now with their atmosphere, okay? And it seems to be a galactic sheet coming at us and changing every planet in our solar system. Water scarcity could derail the green energy boom. Yeah, with rising concerns over water scarcity, mainly due to climate change, there are fears that the big transition to renewable energy will be hindered even further. Okay, that's their opinion. It's interesting, okay? In recent months, we have seen extreme droughts across Europe and the U.S., which are finally making people realize the significance of water scarcity. Labeled as Europe's worst drought in 500 years, the low water levels have restricted shipping capabilities, drying up soil, and reducing summer crop yields. So on the green section down below, the lowest paragraph, water can become scarce. The water has also, with respect to energy production, we have discovered that without water, enough water, we cannot produce the energy that we need, or we can't ship the fuels for filling the power plants. Yeah, we're in big trouble, guys. And it's water that drives it. Now, keep in mind, this is Maslow's hierarchy of need in part. 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. Do you see oil on there? Do you see that you need to fill up your gasoline tank? No. You can still survive without gasoline, okay? You can't survive without air and water, shelter, clean things, clean water, and then food. And keep in mind, animals notice it too. So hunger and thirst forces leopards to hit the city area. They get hungry too. And so that's part of the fourth seal with animal attacks or biological warfare. I'm not sure exactly which one would play out. Okay, so once again, floods or droughts can affect water. Floods would pollute the water. Droughts would dry up the water. So keep in mind, the UN is warning us that we're going to have a severe hunger sliding toward the famine in the Horn of Africa, and then Pakistan's been hit by floods. So water is still an issue even in floods. Okay, you can survive 4 days without water. Yeah, well, extreme drought in southern China. It's horrible right now. And then also keep in mind that floods, heat waves, drought, wildfires, tornadoes, summer 2022. And by the way, I'm recording this. Maybe you're hearing some noises in the background. There are horrible winds in Minnesota. Plus, we had a lightning storm in November. We don't get those up here. We get snowstorms in November. We don't get lightning storms. So it's going to be an interesting time frame moving forward. And it's going to be more lightning, more wind, less water, and more issues. So Ben from Suspicious Observers says, what's next for the Earth? Magnetic weakening, ionosphere disruption, extreme weather, volcanic surge, ocean shutdown, animal migrations. Remember I mentioned that? Caused by thirst. Human psychology. People are going to go nuts. And that's biblical too. So, and also the jet streams are going to move. As you have this wobble of the North Pole, the magnetic North Pole, you're going to get some weird jet streams, and that's going to affect, I'm driving that right through Mesopotamia here, because I wanted to show you that. It's going to be interesting how you're going to see decreased precipitation in those areas, and it's going to be bizarre how the weather is going to change. So once again, keep in mind that our magnetosphere is thinning, and that's going to allow some of the UV to come through, but also asteroids to come through, and it's also going to allow weather to come through, literal, like lightning storms to come through as the sun kicks out more CMEs. So just be aware of it. It was thinning about 5% per year. Now it's thinning 5% per month. And we have this delicate balance that's going on with our electromagnetosphere and our ozone layer. Well, it's thinning, people, and that's going to cause horrific problems in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so where are we in the time frame? We're in the birth pangs. We will enter the tribulation at some point in time, then great tribulation. We seem to be in the third seal. You're seeing many signs of it. The fourth seal is due next. We're in water wars, people. Be aware, water will be huge. You need potable water to survive, especially as we move forward. So from 1967 to say 2025, these are the predictions plus the water wars. So ethnic wars, that seems to be the first seal. Increased crime seems to be part of the first seal. National wars, that's definitely the second seal. Food scarcity, third seal. Economic upheaval, third seal. Increased plagues, fourth seal. Increased deaths, fourth seal. Then false prophets, which really, that's Matthew 24, but really increased persecution and death of the believers. Revelation chapter 6, that's the fifth seal. Sixth seal, increased earthquakes, increased cosmic storms, and then keep in mind that all 10 virgins were asleep, okay? And you'll see increased wickedness. 5 will wake up, but there will be wickedness in the world. You can expect it. Love will grow cold, yep, Matthew 24. Increased uncertainty and fears, that's Luke 21:25. Mental health devolves, that's Luke 21. Okay, so activism uncensored, a weekend of Californians screaming and flailing at each other. Yeah, that's what we're expecting to see. That's what's coming. Okay, garments clean. That's the most important thing. You're going to a wedding. Don't go naked. Don't go with dirty garments. Keeping your garments clean is doing the things that God tells you to do and repenting. Okay, it's a wedding. That's what's coming up. Get ready for it. Thank you very much for your time. Be blessed, and we'll see you next week.